People shifted away at the exact same moment the woman stepped closer. The bus screeched to a halt, brakes screaming, doors opening with a metallic sigh. A crowd surged forward instinctively, shoes scraping concrete, bodies pressing in, until they saw her. Then, like a wave pulling back from something unpleasant, they moved away. "Ah, she's here again," a man muttered, tightening his grip on his briefcase. A woman tugged her child closer. "Don't stand near her." The poorly dressed woman stopped walking. Not because she didn't hear them, but because she did. She adjusted the plastic bag in her hand, its thin handles biting into her fingers, and took a small step back. Not in protest, not in anger, just acceptance. This happened every morning. Same bus stop, same time, same reactions. She stood there quietly as people filled the space she had just vacated, pretending she didn't exist while making it very clear that she did. The bus doors closed. The bus drove away. She didn't get on. Again. "Why does she always come here if she never boards?" A young woman whispered loudly, rolling her eyes. "Probably just looking for sympathy," someone else replied. "She looks like trouble," another voice said. The woman lowered her gaze and waited. The bus stop sat on a busy road where the city never slowed down. Vendors shouted prices, engines roared, phones rang, people laughed, argued, complained about work, complained about life. Yet in the middle of all that noise, the woman existed in silence. Her clothes were worn, not torn, not dirty, just old. Faded fabric, shoes that had seen too many miles, hair pulled back simply, no style, no care for appearances. Her face carried lines that suggested exhaustion rather than age. She never asked for money, she never begged, she never spoke unless spoken to, and no one ever spoke to her. "Security should remove her," a man in a suit said, loud enough for others to hear. "She's bad for the image of this place." Another person laughed, as if this bus stop has an image. But no one defended her. No one ever did. The woman shifted her weight and stared down the road, watching for the next bus, as if she truly believed she would get on this one. She always did. Every morning she arrived just before 7. Every morning she stood at the far edge of the bus stop. Every morning she waited, and every morning people judged. "She must be homeless." "She's probably crazy." "Why would she dress like that if she wasn't begging?" "She makes me uncomfortable." The assumptions piled up like bricks, heavy and unforgiving, built by people who had never asked her name. One morning, a security guard finally approached her. "Madam," he said sharply, stopping a few feet away, "you can't loiter here." She looked up, startled. Her eyes were calm, but something flickered behind them, weariness perhaps. "I'm not loitering," she said softly. "I'm waiting for the bus." The guard frowned. "You wait every day and never get on." She hesitated. "Sometimes I miss it." A scoff came from the crowd. "Every day?" someone mocked. The guard shook his head. "Just don't cause problems." "I never do," she replied. And she didn't. Days passed. Weeks. The bus stop remained the same theater of quiet cruelty. People avoided sitting near her. If she sat on a bench, others stood. If she stood, they moved away. No one noticed that she always left before 8. No one noticed that she always clutched that plastic bag carefully, like it contained something fragile. No one noticed the envelopes inside. Until one morning, someone did. The young man arrived late. He ran toward the bus stop, breath shallow, tie loose, jacket slung over his shoulder. The bus was already there, doors open. "Wait!" he shouted. He squeezed through the crowd and almost collided with her. He stopped short, instinctively stepping back, not because of her appearance, but because everyone else had. He glanced around and noticed something odd. A wide space surrounded her, like an invisible barrier no one wanted to cross. She looked up at him, startled again. Then she nodded. "Yes." He hesitated, then gestured toward the bench. "You can sit, if you want." The woman froze, not because she didn't want to sit, but because no one had offered her a seat in a very long time. She glanced around. People were watching now, watching him. Someone whispered, "Why would he talk to her?" Another muttered, He must be desperate. The woman shook her head slightly. It's okay. I can stand. You don't have to, he said gently. There's space. She studied his face, searching for mockery, sarcasm, something hidden. Finding none, she nodded. Thank you. She sat. The bench creaked softly under their combined weight. The space between them was small, too small for the comfort of onlookers. The young man pulled out his phone, pretending not to notice the stares. But he did notice. Every single one. This is uncomfortable, he admitted quietly. She gave a faint smile. It usually is. He looked at her, surprised. For you? For them, she corrected. Silence stretched between them, thick but not hostile. After a moment he asked, Do you take this bus often? Every morning, she replied. He frowned. I don't think I've ever seen you on it. She adjusted her bag. I don't always get on. Why not? She paused, then said, Because sometimes being present is enough. He didn't understand that. Not yet. The next bus appeared in the distance. As it approached, the crowd moved forward instinctively, then stopped. Because she stood up first, she stepped back, allowing others to pass. The young man watched her, confusion tugging at his thoughts as the bus arrived and people rushed in. She didn't board, again, and for the first time someone wondered why. The next morning, the young man arrived early. He told himself it was coincidence, told himself he just wanted to make sure he didn't miss the bus again. But when he reached the stop, his eyes scanned the crowd before he could stop them. She wasn't there yet. He exhaled, unsure why he felt relieved or disappointed. People gathered in small clusters, talking loudly about deadlines, prices, traffic. Someone complained about the heat. Someone laughed at a joke he didn't hear. The bench remained half empty. Then she appeared. She walked slowly, not dragging her feet, not hesitant, just steady. The same plastic bag, the same worn clothes, the same quiet presence that made the space around her thin out almost immediately. A man stood up from the bench as she approached. Another person shifted farther down. Someone clicked their tongue in irritation. She's back, a woman muttered. The young man watched it happen from a few steps away. He noticed the pattern now. How quickly people created distance. How automatic it was. How practiced. She stopped near the edge of the bench, not sitting, just standing there, eyes forward. He cleared his throat. Good morning? Her head turned. For a second, her face showed surprise, then recognition. Good morning, she replied. You can sit, he said, nodding toward the bench. There's room. A few people glanced over sharply. The woman hesitated again. It wasn't fear, it was caution. I don't want to inconvenience anyone, she said. He almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because of how unfair it sounded. You won't, he said. I promise. She sat. This time the silence around them felt louder. A man standing nearby scoffed openly. Some people have no shame. The young man turned. Excuse me? The man shrugged. If you're talking about her, say it to her face. She knows what she's doing, the man replied. Coming here every day, making people uncomfortable. The woman stiffened slightly. I don't mean to, she said quietly. The man waved her off. See? Always playing innocent. That's enough, the young man snapped. Heads turned. The man raised his eyebrows. Why do you care? The young man didn't answer immediately. He didn't know the answer himself. I just don't see the problem with letting someone sit, he said finally. The man scoffed again and turned away. Suit yourself. The woman stared at her hands. I'm sorry, she murmured. You didn't do anything wrong? The young man said firmly. She looked up at him, eyes searching his face again. Most people don't agree. Most people don't think, he replied. That earned him the smallest laugh from her, soft, almost surprised, like she hadn't expected the sound to come out. They sat like that for a while, watching traffic. You always come this early? He asked. Yes. Work? She nodded. Something like that. He waited for more, but she didn't elaborate. "What about you?" she asked instead. "Office job," he said. "Nothing special." She smiled faintly. "Those jobs are rarely nothing." The bus arrived. People surged forward. She stood up again, stepping back. "You're not getting on?" he asked. "Not this one." "Why?" She met his gaze. "Because I still have time." "For what?" She hesitated, then shook her head. Another bus. The bus left. Again, she stayed. This time, someone laughed outright. "Does she think the bus will change its mind?" a woman said. The young man clenched his jaw. The woman didn't react. But later that day, he couldn't stop thinking about her words. "I still have time." The bus stop was crowded, umbrellas colliding, shoes splashing through puddles. The woman stood without shelter, rain soaking into her clothes. The young man arrived and immediately noticed. "You're getting wet," he said. "It's all right," she replied. He opened his umbrella and held it over both of them. People stared. "Why are you doing this?" she asked softly. "Because it's raining," he said. She looked at him for a long moment. "You're different." "I'm really not." She shook her head. "You are." A woman nearby scoffed. "Hope you don't catch whatever she has." The young man snapped around. "What is wrong with you?" The woman turned away, muttering. The woman under the umbrella sighed. "You don't have to defend me." "Yes, I do," he said. "Someone should." She looked at him then, not with gratitude but with something deeper, something like caution mixed with relief. "You shouldn't get involved," she said. "Why not?" "Because people don't like being challenged." He smiled slightly. "I've noticed." They stood together until the rain eased. That morning, as she prepared to leave the bus stop earlier than usual, he noticed something slip from her bag. An envelope. He picked it up. "You dropped this." Her breath caught. She reached for it quickly, but not before he saw the writing. "School fees." She froze. "I'm sorry," he said immediately. "I didn't mean to look." She hesitated, then sighed. "It's all right." "Is that yours?" She shook her head. "No." "Then, they belong to children," she said. He blinked. "Your children?" "No." A pause. "Children who don't have anyone else." He stared at her. "You mean, you help them?" She nodded slowly. "I try." "With this?" He gestured toward the envelope. "How?" She smiled sadly. "Carefully." Before he could ask more, her phone rang. "Yes?" she said softly. Her posture changed instantly. Straighter, focused. "No. I'll be there soon." "Yes, I know the deadline, don't worry." She hung up and looked at him. "I have to go." "Wait," he said. "Where do you go every morning?" She hesitated longer this time. Then she said, "Somewhere people don't judge me." And she walked away. The young man stood there long after she disappeared into the crowd. For the first time, he realized something unsettling. The woman everyone avoided wasn't waiting for a bus. She was waiting for something else. And whatever it was, it mattered more than catching a ride. The next day, the young man didn't go straight to the bus stop. He stood across the road, pretending to check his phone, watching. People arrived in their usual rush, complaints, laughter, impatience. Then she appeared just as she always did, a few minutes before 7. The same reactions followed her like a shadow, steps backward, narrowed eyes, whispered comments. Why does she keep coming here? She should find somewhere else. She ruins the mood every morning. She stood quietly, as always. The young man crossed the road and joined her. "You came early," she said. "So did you." She smiled faintly. "I always do." They stood side by side. The silence between them was no longer uncomfortable, but it carried weight. "I've been thinking about what you said," he began. "About the children." Her grip on the plastic bag tightened. "I didn't mean to burden you with that." "You didn't," he said. "I'm just curious." She looked around. People were watching again, listening. "Not here," she said. "Too many ears." "When then?" She studied him carefully, as if measuring his patience. "Walk with me," she said at last. "Just a little." They left the bus stop together. Behind them, someone scoffed. "Unbelievable." Another voice said, "He'll regret that." They walked down a narrow street lined with closed shops. The city noise softened. "You don't owe me an explanation," he said. "I know that." "I know," she replied, "but I want you to understand something." She stopped walking. "People think I come to that bus stop because I have nowhere else to go. Don't you?" She met his gaze. "I come because it reminds me of who I never want to become." He frowned. "I don't understand." "I used to be like them," she said quietly. "In a hurry, in my own world, certain that I knew who people were just by looking." She resumed walking. "There was a time when I crossed the street to avoid people like me now." He absorbed that in silence. They reached a small, weathered building squeezed between two abandoned structures. Paint peeled from the walls. Windows were cracked but clean. "This is it," she said. He stared. "This?" She nodded and pushed the door open. Inside, the air was warm. Voices echoed, children's voices, laughter, reading aloud, a chalkboard filled with uneven handwriting. A little girl ran up to her. "Auntie!" The woman dropped her bag and knelt instantly, arms open. "You're early today." "We finished our math," the girl said proudly. "That's wonderful," the woman replied, hugging her tightly. The young man stood frozen. More children gathered around her, different ages, different faces, all smiling. "Who's he?" a boy asked. She glanced back. "A friend." The word landed heavily. An older woman emerged from the back room. "You're just in time." The school called again. "I know," the woman said calmly. "We'll manage." The older woman noticed the young man. "And you are?" "Just someone who rides the bus," he said weakly. The woman smiled faintly. "Then you've seen how the world treats her." He nodded. "Come," the older woman said. "You should hear this." They sat on plastic chairs while the children returned to their books. "She pays their fees," the older woman explained. "All of them. Uniforms, too. Books. Meals when she can." "How?" the young man asked. The woman answered herself. "I sell what I have. I work odd jobs. I go without." "You look like you go without a lot," he said before he could stop himself. She smiled gently. "It's temporary." "For how long?" She didn't answer. The children peeked at them curiously. "Why don't you tell them?" the older woman said softly. The woman sighed. "They don't need to know." "Know what?" he asked. "That I lost everything once," she said, "and decided not to lose myself too." He waited. "My husband died," she continued. "So did my daughter. An accident. After that, nothing made sense anymore." "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I was angry," she said, "at the world, at people, at God. Then one day I met a boy begging near my old office." She smiled sadly. "I ignored him, walked right past him." The young man swallowed. "The next day he was gone," she said. "I never found out where he went." Her voice trembled for the first time. "That was the day I stopped assuming I had time." Silence filled the room. "I sold my car," she continued, "then my apartment, then my clothes. I didn't need much. They needed everything." "And the bus stop?" he asked. She looked down. "It's where I decide each morning whether I still care what people think." "You don't?" he said. She smiled. "Not anymore." They returned to the bus stop later that morning. This time she boarded the bus. The crowd stared. "She's getting on," someone whispered. She sat beside the young man. As the bus moved, she looked out the window. "People think kindness is loud," she said. "It isn't." He nodded. "It's just rare." When they arrived, she stood. "Thank you," she said, "for walking with me." "For showing me," he replied. That afternoon, something changed. People at the bus stop began whispering, not with mockery, but curiosity. Did you see where she went? Who were those children? She's not who we thought. The truth was moving, and judgment was starting to crack. The change didn't happen all at once. It started with whispers. The morning after she boarded the bus, people watched her more closely. Not with the same sharp judgment, but with curiosity that felt unfamiliar on their tongues. There she is? She's early today. She looks different. She wasn't different. She wore the same clothes, carried the same plastic bag, stood in the same place. But now, when she arrived, a few people didn't immediately move away, not closer, just not away. She noticed. The young man arrived a few minutes later and found her already seated on the bench. "They're staring," he said quietly. "They always do," she replied. "Yes, but now it's different." She smiled faintly. "That's because confusion has replaced certainty." A woman approached hesitantly. One of the same women who had once pulled her child away. Excuse me," she said. Do you work with children?" The woman looked up, surprised. "Sometimes." The woman nodded awkwardly. Someone said..." She trailed off. "It's all right," the woman said gently. "What would you like to know?" The woman swallowed. "Nothing. Good morning." She walked away quickly. The young man watched, stunned. "That's new," he said. "Yes," the woman replied. "It usually begins with discomfort." Days passed. Someone offered her water. Another person nodded at her. A man once moved his bag to make space on the bench. Small things, but they mattered. Then one morning, a familiar voice broke the fragile calm. "So this is what we're doing now?" The man with the briefcase sneered. "Pretending she's some kind of hero?" People turned. "She fooled you all," he continued. "Dress poor, act quiet, suddenly she's special?" The bus stop fell silent. The woman stood slowly. "I never asked to be special," she said. Her voice was calm but firm. "I only asked to be left in peace." The man scoffed. "Then why come here every day?" She met his gaze. "Because every day, I want to believe people can do better." The young man stepped forward. And she was right. He turned to the crowd. "You judged her without knowing her," he said. "And now that you know, you're uncomfortable because it says more about you than her." Murmurs spread. The man scoffed again, but said nothing more. The bus arrived. This time no one rushed ahead of her. She boarded calmly. So did others. Weeks later, the bus stop felt different. Not kinder, not perfect, just aware. People thought before they spoke, before they stared, before they assumed. One morning, a boy approached her shyly. "My mom says thank you," he said, "for helping my friend's sister." She smiled and knelt. "Tell your mom she's welcome." Word spread. Quietly. A donation appeared at the shelter, then another, then volunteers. The woman didn't change. She still wore the same clothes, still carried the same bag, still arrived before 7. One evening, the young man walked with her again. "You changed a lot of people," he said. She shook her head. "No, I gave them a chance to see themselves." He stopped walking. "You know this story will spread, right?" She nodded. "Stories always do." He smiled. "I'm glad I noticed." She looked at him kindly. "You didn't just notice. You chose." They stood in silence for a moment. "Why did you really help me that first day?" she asked. He thought carefully. "Because I was tired of becoming someone I wouldn't like." She nodded. "That's usually the reason." The next morning, as she stood at the bus stop, she felt something strange. Peace. Not because everyone was kind, but because she had been. And somewhere, children were learning, laughing, growing, because she refused to let judgment decide her worth, because one act of kindness had revealed the truth, not about her, but about everyone watching. If this story moved you, take a moment to like the video. It helps stories like this reach people who need them. Share it with someone who might be judging too quickly, and leave a comment below. When was the last time you chose kindness when it wasn't popular? Subscribe for more powerful stories that remind us who we are and who we can be, because sometimes the person everyone avoids is the one teaching us how to be human, and the truth has a way of finding those who are willing to see it.